So it starts with Will Traynor, who is, I guess, what you would call a master of the universe. You know, he has everything. He has good looks. He comes from a wealthy family. He has a great job in the city. He earns a fortune, and he's a real liver of life. He's the kind of guy who likes to throw himself out of airplanes at weekends or climb mountains. You know, he's determined to kind of suck the marrow out of life. And he just has one really random accident, and he's left with a spinal injury, which means that he has to be cared for by other people. And when we meet him, he's pretty much in a state of depression. He's decided he just doesn't want to carry on living like this, given what he's lost. And we meet Louisa Clark, who is a small town girl. She's content to lead a very small life within the confines of her hometown. She's had the same boyfriend for 7 years. She's been very happy working as a waitress in the buttered bun, sorry. And she's just, she has no ambitions, but she's like a lot of girls I knew when I was growing up. They don't feel the need to look beyond their boundaries. They're just quite happy where they are. And it's what happens when these two people meet, and she's employed to be his carer. And we should say they get off to a kind of rocky start, but then things start to shift. You have to cut an awful lot because you can't have, 450 pages of dialogue in a script. But trying to keep the essence of those two people, we felt, was the key thing, and to tell the story in a way that was faithful to the tone of the book as well, which is why I think MGM were prepared to let me write the screenplay, which doesn't always happen. I understand with these things. But the voice of this book is really key, I think. And it has been a challenge, and anyone working on set will tell you we're still doing it every single day. We're tweaking lines and listening to the way that the actors say them to try and make sure that it's absolutely the best adaptation it can be. As soon as I saw Amelia, she was so Lou that I couldn't even come up with two other people that would be the top three, because she was the Lou in my head. And it took me a moment, because when I thought about her other part as, Game of Thrones Khaleesi, I was like, how is that going to work? But she has a natural warmth, and she's quick-witted, and she's funny, and she's fast, and she has a kind of kindness about her that was so completely Lou that as soon as I saw her on screen, and especially what Wardrobe have done with her wardrobe, I couldn't ask for a better one. I'm so happy. And Sam also, I mean, he was very slightly younger than the Will in my head, and yet somehow now I can't remember the Will in my head because Sam has taken him over. Originally, when I wrote this story, it was called 6-month Contract, because that's what Lou's taken on, and that's the period of time she has. And I sent that to the publishers, and they said, it sounds like an employment manual. So we then had about 3 months to try and find a title. And the really tricky thing was how to describe this book without people deciding they knew what it was about, or deciding that the subject matter was going to be gloomy, or it was, it wouldn't reflect the humor, it wouldn't reflect what was in it. So we went for as opaque a title as we could possibly do. And Me Before You basically means anything you want it to mean, but in my head it means who I was before I met you, and it refers to how each of them has changed the other. But when readers contact me and they say, this is what it meant to me, I go, that's totally fine.